I live in a small town in the Midwest. It's super safe and the crime rate is pretty low, and it consists of mostly domestic disputes and traffic violations. There are only about 20,000 people in the town, and it seems like I see someone I know or at least recognize out in public every single day. Back in 2008, I was about to turn 19 and wanted to have a real party for my birthday. I graduated from a private Christian high school the year before, and hadn't really ever partied before, even during my first year at State University. I just wasn't really ever interested because my friends weren't either. I was just the small town girl at a big university who didn't really get noticed, other than by the guys in my boyfriend's dorm hitting on me. That year, though, I decided it was going to be different. I had dropped out of college, stupid, I know, and broken up with my boyfriend. I had a few new friends who did party, and they seemed to always be talking about how much fun it was to go to house parties. I wanted my 19th birthday to be the first time I got drunk, so I had my older friends help me buy alcohol and invite all of our close friends over to my house. The night came and went. Fun was had, and my friends commented about how great my house was for parties. I lived alone in a 3-bedroom house with an attached garage, so people who wanted to stay over could stay in one of the bedrooms, and people who wanted to smoke had easy access to the garage. We sometimes moved my car out and played beer pong in the garage too. My friends really pushed the idea of having more parties, and I loved the thought of meeting new people. So we started partying at my house pretty much every weekend. It wasn't really hard to get people to come to our parties. It was August, and there were 3 colleges around our town. More than once, my house was full of people I didn't even know. I woke up a lot with random strangers in my house, but one of my friends always took responsibility for inviting each stranger over. It was no big deal to me. I would just clean up the house, go to work during the week, and have another party on the weekend. They weren't crazy or anything. There weren't any drugs involved. Just alcohol, which I thought was pretty safe. One day in September when I was leaving for work, I went to shut the garage door, and noticed that the garage door remote wasn't on the car sun visor where I usually kept it. I thought maybe it had fallen off, so I got out and searched under the seats. I was more annoyed than scared, because I thought I had maybe taken it out while I was drunk or something, to close the garage door instead of using the remote attached to the wall. I shut the garage door with the wall remote, and went through the house to get back into my car and go to work. That night, I clocked out for lunch, and as soon as I entered the parking lot, my phone rang. It was a blocked number, and the caller ID just said, "Unavailable." I thought it was one of my friends calling me as a prank, because that's something we did a lot in high school. I answered, expecting someone to ask me something stupid in a weird accent. But there was nothing. I mean, complete silence. I thought it was weird, but just hung up. I didn't want to waste my lunch break dealing with stupid pranks. Everything continued on as normal as I worked the rest of my shift. We closed the store and I was walking to my car when I got another call. It was from the unavailable number again. The same silence rang through the phone when I answered. Absolutely nothing could be heard on the other line. I really thought it was one of my friends then, because I hadn't had any missed calls, and how would this person be calling me as soon as I clocked out and had my phone on me? My friends knew my schedule, so that was pretty much the only explanation. I called my friend Lacey, and she said she had no idea what I was talking about. I didn't believe her at first, but then her boyfriend verified that she'd been with him, and they did not call me. I wasn't sure what to think at this point, but I brushed it off and forgot about it as soon as I got home. I had the next couple of days off, and usually on days off I slept in pretty late. I woke up around 11 the next day and got out of bed. I grabbed my phone and went into the living room, and my phone rang. You guessed it. It was the unavailable number calling again, and again I heard silence when I answered. This happened a couple of times throughout the day, and I was getting pretty annoyed by then. I was also annoyed that I still couldn't find my garage door remote. I looked everywhere that day, and I finally just gave up. I thought that maybe it had fallen out of my car somewhere. Fast forward about 3 weeks, and the calls started happening every single day. The most unsettling part of this is that they would only happen when I was available to answer the phone. I never had any missed calls during work or when I was asleep. As soon as I would step out of my workplace, the number would call. When I woke up in the mornings, the number would call right away. I really thought it was someone going to great lengths to play a prank on me, but then even weirder stuff started happening. I stopped parking my car in the garage because it was so annoying to go through the house to open or close the garage door. One day when I left for work, I backed up and heard a loud scraping noise. I got out and there were huge tree branches underneath my car. I had no idea how they got there or when they had gotten there, but it was sure getting annoying to take them out from under my car. About a week later, I heard a loud bang at the front door and went to check it out. There was a tree branch sitting on my porch, resting against my front door. This is when I called Lacey and basically told her that I had to stay at her house that night. I was terrified. I went to Lacey's and sure enough, the unavailable number called again. By now, it had been almost a month since this began, and I was so frustrated that I stopped answering. I didn't answer that call. And then about 5 seconds later, Lacey's phone rang. It was from another unavailable number. We were super freaked out and I told her not to answer it. I knew then that it was either a mutual friend playing a crazy wrong prank, or we had a real stalker on our hands. I decided to tell one of my managers at work what had been happening. He immediately told me to call the police the next time I got a call, and that if I didn't call, he would. I told him I would call the police as soon as I got off the phone with the number. Like clockwork, my phone rang as I walked to my car at break. I called the police after listening to the silence for a full minute. The police basically told me they couldn't trace the call, but that my phone company could. I got the runaround from the phone company when I asked, and despite this, the police wouldn't help. They did say that because this person had put branches in weird places, they would send a police officer to watch my house for a couple of days to see if they noticed anything. Nothing but phone calls happened for the next week. I wasn't too scared anymore at this point. I actually started being pretty mean to the person, calling them a coward and asking why they were doing this. After following up with the police, it seemed like they didn't really believe that someone was actually on my property. They apologized that I was scared, but said there wasn't anything else they could do. Tree branches started showing up in the middle of my yard, and I would hear banging noises on my front windows at night. For some reason, I didn't feel safe anymore in my room, so I started sleeping on the couch. One night, in the middle of the night, I went to the kitchen to get a glass of water, and the number called. I was so scared that I called Lacey and she came over right away. I didn't understand how this was happening, because I couldn't see anyone watching me or anything. I never noticed anyone following me or watching me from afar, so what was happening to me? Sometimes there would be napkins inside my screen door, or stacks of blank paper in my grass. I also got markers in my mailbox, and sometimes there would be candy wrappers on top of my car. Whoever was doing this was very, very strange. This went on until Christmas time. On Christmas Eve, I was driving out to my grandpa's farm to have Christmas with them, when I got a call. I was angry now, and I thought that I would have been able to have the holiday in peace. I picked up the phone and started screaming at the person on the other end that it was Christmas, and they should really just let me celebrate with my family. I called them a freak and asked what they wanted. I was crying and basically begging them just to leave me alone. And as always, there was nothing but silence. That night, I was sleeping on the couch, and I woke up to lights in my face. someone was shining several flashlights into my windows. I wasn't sure what to do, so I ran into the bathroom, locked the door, and called Lacey. She drove over as fast as she could and we looked around, but we couldn't find anyone. I was so scared, but she stayed over and that made me feel a little more safe. The calls kept coming, and the police still did nothing. Nothing else happened outside my house. No branches or weird things turning up. I started sleeping in my room again, because I thought maybe they'd backed off. One morning, though, I woke up and went into my dining room, and noticed through the kitchen door window that my garage door was open. I thought maybe it had gotten stuck on something when I had put it down, so it went back up. It had a sensor so no one would get stuck under the door, I guess, without me noticing. I went to the kitchen door and shut it with the wall remote. I grabbed a glass of milk and went to sit down at the dining room table. And that's when I saw it. My missing garage door remote was sitting in the middle of my dining room table. Of course, I freaked out. I was still in my pajamas, but I ran to my car and drove. I didn't even know where I was going. I just called Lacey and told her that it was time to move. We had been talking about moving to a different city for a while, and I told her it was time to go. Her and her boyfriend came over to check the house with me, but nobody was there. Lacey and I got an apartment in a different city, and the calls stopped as soon as we moved. I remember it was Valentine's Day and we were having a girls' day out. I told her that I was going to leave my phone at home so we could enjoy a movie. I asked her if I could leave it plugged into her charger that was in the kitchen, and she said yes. Before we left, she had to wait for me to plug it in, and we left through the kitchen door. So we went out and went to the movies. We were chatting about the movie on the way back to the car, and I saw something sitting beside my car on the ground. My stomach immediately sunk when I saw it. It was my phone. We both died a little and stayed at her boyfriend's house that night. There was no sign of anyone being in our apartment the next day when we got there. That was the last weird or scary thing that happened to me. Unfortunately, I never got to find out who did any of this. No one has fessed up to it, and I know my friends wouldn't have let me live in a state of constant fear for nearly 5 months. I asked a couple of random people that I had met at some of my house parties, but none of them had any idea what I was talking about either. So, like many people on here, I've been lurking on here for a while now. After reading many interesting and horrifying stories, I decided to share one of my own. The names in this particular story have been changed. It was December, and Christmas was right around the corner. It was late, around 3 a.m. or so. I was sick, so I was on a strange sleep schedule at the time. I was pretty bored, and none of my friends were online, so I decided to venture into a little site called Omegle. I went on there quite often at the time, mainly to troll people. But tonight I decided to have some actual conversations. Big mistake. I decided that I wanted to talk to people under the anime tag, because people on there seem generally cool for the most part. Of course, there's always horny teenagers looking for a girlfriend, no matter what tag you're on. I eventually find someone who doesn't seem to be a bot, and who doesn't immediately ask ASL, meaning age, sex, location. We'll call her Azula. Azula asked me what my favorite anime is, and I jokingly said Fat Albert. I knew I said I didn't want to troll, but I couldn't help myself. A conversation ensues after that about anime and such, and she seems like a cool, genuinely decent person. She then asks for my email. I gave her my spam email, knowing there's no real harm in giving that out. So we continue our chat in a Google Plus Hangout. She starts to ask to video chat. I decline, telling her that I don't even voice chat with my real life friends, but she keeps on persisting, and I keep telling her no. At this point, I was starting to think that she might actually be some kind of pedophile. I told her that I didn't really feel comfortable revealing my face to anyone online, and I didn't really want to have a voice chat. She then says she'll send me a picture of her face if I send her a picture of mine, so I let her send hers first. I did a reverse image search to see if the photo was fake, but nothing came up anywhere, so I knew that it wasn't. Reluctantly, I took a picture of myself and sent it to her. I figured it couldn't really do any harm. She kept on persisting to video chat. I kept telling her no, and I turned my computer off because I was tired and annoyed. I didn't really think much about it, but I was planning on blocking her the next day. A day later, I get on my computer and was about to block her, but as soon as I got on, she messaged me immediately. At this point, I thought she was either stalking me or had no life and was at her computer all day, so I went ahead and talked to her. She apologized for being pushy and explained that she didn't have many friends and just wanted to get to know me. I said that it was fine, so we talked about animes as well as video games and such. A normal conversation for me. The next day, we talk again. She wants to video chat, and I tell her that I'd voice chat with her, since I was starting to do that all the time. Once we were in the voice call, she kept asking me to turn my camera on. Her camera was on, so at this point I was sure she wasn't a 40-year-old man. I told her that I didn't really feel comfortable with doing that. She said that she wanted me to video chat to make sure I wasn't some 40-year-old pedophile. My voice was quite deep, so I understood why. Again, reluctantly, I turned the camera on. After that, everything seemed to be okay. I could tell there was something wrong, but I figured she was just socially awkward. After that, things were okay for a few weeks. But one day, she randomly told me that she had a crush on me. I told her that I didn't do online relationships, and she got really depressed after that. She kept on telling me how every guy, 5 in total I believe, had turned her down and she was really sad about it. I didn't really know what to do at this point. I felt really bad for her because I knew how it felt to be rejected and how awkward it was to stay friends with them afterwards. So I made one of the dumbest mistakes in my life. I said that I actually did like her back. Nowadays, there's no way in hell I would have done any of this, but I was 14 at the time, so I was young and dumb. So just keep that in mind. I basically was in a fake, fabricated online relationship at this point. I didn't consider her my girlfriend, and only one of my friends, who we'll call Eric, even knew about her existence. In fact, one day he was in a group chat with us. That's when things started to get strange. In the group chat, we had a decent conversation, but it got weird after I left. Azula started asking Eric really personal questions about me. Eric gave her the runaround, telling her that she should be asking me this stuff. She was asking questions like what my last name was, where I lived, and stuff like that. Eric didn't tell me about this, but I saw in the group chat. I thought it was really strange that she would ask him these questions, knowing that I would see them when I got back. Anyway, at this point she kept asking me what my last name was. Remember, Azula was very persistent, and she wouldn't stop asking a question even if you declined. So I found out that she goes on Facebook and searches every single person with the same name as I have. My name is fairly common, so there's a lot of people on there with my name. I couldn't believe it. She spent days trying to find my Facebook. I've never seen so much dedication, and red flags were definitely going off at this point. She eventually finds my Facebook and sends me a friend request. I declined it because I was very pissed that she was invading my privacy. She started messaging me on Google Hangouts, asking me about my family members and close friends who weren't on private for some reason. She literally wrote down a list of them all, asking them how they were related to me. I got really scared at this point. I knew I had a stalker, and I didn't know what to do. I blocked her on everything, and deleted everything on the net that had my real name in it. I had officially gone rogue. She eventually messages me on another email of mine. Don't ask me how she found it, because I honestly have no clue. Perhaps it was on my Facebook before I deleted it. But anyway, she spams that email with countless messages every day. I blocked her, and the email stopped. I didn't hear from her for about a month. Then one day, I accidentally deleted an important email, so I went to my trash to recover it. In my trash were hundreds of emails from her. I nearly soiled myself in fear. The last email was from that day. So in morbid curiosity, I read some of the emails. What I found was nothing short of terrifying. She told me that she thought there was something wrong with her, and that she enjoyed and got off on the pain of others. She said that she knew where I lived, and was going to fly over there and live with me. I was so scared at this point, I honestly worried that she was going to kill me. I deleted that email account, and I've been off the grid ever since. I've commented on several posts in Let's Not Meet about stalkers and learning the warning signs. I decided to post the story of my best friend and what her life is like with the stalker. This will be the abridged version, but it will still be long. She knew of him through a mutual friend. He lived in Delaware and we live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He came to visit his friend, met her once, and then decided to move here. After he lived here for 6 months, they began dating. 3 months into them dating, he admitted he'd moved there because he wanted to be closer to her, even though they weren't romantically involved at the time. Before they ever dated, he asked her what she wanted for her birthday. She said that she liked stars, so just something with stars on it. He literally bought her a star in the sky and named it Tara. It was also accompanied with a very intense and creepy love letter. She didn't see it as a warning sign and liked the attention. I told her that it was pretty overboard and creepy. The first week of them dating, he began going through her phone and purse at every opportunity. She was furious and told him that her phone was private. She said he should only snoop if he had good reason to do so, not just because he wanted to keep tabs on who she texted. She puts a lock on her phone, but it doesn't take long for him to figure out the lock code. He didn't admit to going through her phone again, but she knew he was, because he would always seem to bring up a person that may have texted her that day, or the subject of what was spoken of. Some phone numbers of her closest guy friends had been changed in her phone as well. He wouldn't let her go anywhere without him. He would make plans with her for every single day of the week, and then make her promise to follow through with them, even though they lived together. If she ever went back on the plans because something else came up that she wanted to do, he would throw a fit and say she's a liar because she didn't keep her promise. It was things like when she promised to eat dinner at home with him. Small things, and he would often react violently. She became increasingly agitated with his controlling and smothering behavior, and told him that she wanted to go have girl time with me, that she needed some space to breathe for a night. He made her promise to let him come if we hang out with other people. About an hour before she was coming to meet me, I got a phone call from a friend that had moved across the country. He was in town and wanted to see me. I told him that I would have a friend with me that night, but that we'd swing by his house for about an hour if she was okay with it. I asked Tara if she's cool with it, and she says of course. A few minutes later, I get a text from him asking if he could come because of the promise that Tara had made to him. I said, "I'm sorry, but I don't think that's acceptable. This is a friend I haven't seen in several years, and I'm already taking one person over to his mom's house that he doesn't know. It would be rude to bring another. We're only going to be staying there for an hour anyways." A few minutes later, Tara texts and says she's walking out her door, but she never makes it to my house. I called and texted, but I couldn't reach her. I finally get one text from her that just says, "Help." I immediately drove to her apartment, where I found her on the balcony. He had stolen her phone and locked her on the balcony so that she couldn't leave. They broke up for a while, and I guess out of being lonely, she got back with him. One night, he burst through my front door unannounced because he hadn't talked to Tara in 30 minutes. She went to dinner with a family friend, and he was following her and spying on her. Her phone had died, and he panicked when he lost track of her. He freaked out in the middle of my living room and accused me of lying for her. I also found out that he had saved the numbers of all the guys she had in her phone. I told him that he wasn't allowed near me again, even if Tara was with him. He seemed to act normal for a while after that, until Tara became pregnant. He was ecstatic and she was scared. After about a week, she started getting excited about being a parent. But that was until she started adding some things up. Her birth control had mysteriously vanished not long before she got pregnant. He was giving her vitamins every day and watching her take them. He said she needed to take them because she was anemic. When she looked up the pills, she saw they were for fertility. She also remembered a few times when he said he was wearing a condom, but she didn't think she felt like one was there. He had been purposely trying to get her pregnant. She understandably chose not to keep the baby after finding this out. She was terrified of him after this. He would have used that baby as a way to get to her. It would have meant nothing more to him. They split again after this. He still lived in their apartment after they split, and she would drop by here and there to get some of her stuff. He seemed to be handling things okay until Thanksgiving. He threw her all over the apartment when she stopped by for stuff. That night, he said he was going to spend the night out of town in Nashville, and that he needed Tara to stay there and watch his puppy. She made sure it had food and water, but didn't want to be there in case he came back. He did, and at 1 a.m., she gets dozens of phone calls from him. He was never in Nashville. He was trying to get her alone, and flipped his shit when she wasn't there. He sent her 115 texts in 1 minute that all said, "Respond to me." He began driving by her work and house all the time. He would call and text her incessantly. He told her that he wasn't promising his sanity or her safety, that he would kill her. He started taking her mail. I told her that I would go get her mail for her, but he said he wouldn't give it to me. He'd only give it to her if she came in person. He began threatening me, saying that it was my fault. Yes, I had encouraged her to get away from him. He was insane, and everyone was scared for her. She was living in my house, because he didn't know where I lived at the time. I finally decided to treat him like the kid he was, and I called his mother in Delaware. I told her of his behavior and threats, and asked if she could help him. He ended up moving back there, but would still call and text Tara all the time. He also made sure to bash her to every person she knew. He would come back to town often, go everywhere he knew she would go. He would go places where her friends worked. He would drive by her work. He would send her gifts, and sometimes she'd see him waiting outside of places she was at. It finally stopped, and she had a year of silence from him. She had even moved to a different state with the guy she was dating. Her and her new boyfriend split, and she moved back home to Chattanooga and started working at a hotel. He came in and bought a room for the night. The next morning, he checked out and drove back to Delaware. He drove 12 hours to stay at her hotel for 1 night, and then turned around and drove back. He sent her a text a few months ago, saying that he was moving back here. For several years, she was constantly on edge. She gets nervous if she sees a car like his. She has the genuine fear that he will hurt her if he gets the opportunity. She's afraid he might kill her one day, and I'm also afraid that he will. She has numerous police reports over this guy. I hate seeing how he's damaged her, and she's afraid to get close to any other guy. She doesn't want any kids now, and she's always nervous. We still use the buddy system. She doesn't go anywhere at all by herself. It only takes 1 moment of her being alone for him to get her. Learn the warning signs, and learn what to do if you're being stalked. Don't ever let your life turn into what hers has. What is up, guys? It's Blue Spooky here, as always. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. Today's video has been requested often, so to those of you who have requested it, I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy the video, please feel free to leave feedback in the comments below, and perhaps like, share, or subscribe if you feel so inclined. In addition to this, links to my social media will be in the description below. If you have a story that you'd like to share, or you'd just like to chat, go ahead and take a look in the description, and send a message to any of those. This will include my Facebook, Twitter, and Gmail accounts, and if you send me a message, I'll try to include your story in a video, or respond to you as soon as possible. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include in the tagline what the name of the story is, the theme, if it has any, and how you'd like to be credited in the description of the video the story appears in. If you're ever curious about the music used in my videos, they are listed in the description below, in the order which they appear, and they're listed by name. I also have links to the artists if you enjoy their work and you'd like to check out more of their stuff, so if you're curious about the music, go ahead and check down there in the description. Last but not least, if you have any constructive criticism, please feel free to leave it in the comments below, as I'm always looking for new ways to improve the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.